are you?
I'm Angelika Taylor.
Tell me about Angelika. What's your story as Angelika? You can go through childhood, you can go through...
I'm a strong woman, and not just in the word, but actually through the actions. I have overcome so much adversity in life, and it's made me become the person that I am today. And by being that, I'm a testimony to a lot of other individuals, not necessarily just women, but I've touched on and inspired so many people based on my life, based on everything that I've been through. And gosh, there's just so many different segments of my life. I was a young mom at 15, and I went to college at 17. I was accepted by 11 different colleges and universities. So yes, I was a statistic back in 95, 96, but I overcame that challenge, right? Especially not having the resources that we have today for single parents. We didn't really have much then. Then while I was in college, I was the first student to have a student-run college barbecue. A student-ran, gosh, there was so many things I did. Student-run concert, and then also the first edutainment show. So I had Jamie Foxx's personal assistant come, and then I had 3 comedians from BET Comic View come. So I was the first person to go to the dean and ask for money. I love challenges. I'm not afraid of being told no, but I think that you won't know the answer until you try. And so that's how I live my philosophy. And I'm thankful that I went through what I went through young, because being a young mom, I learned that people are going to talk about you whether you do well or you fail. And so keep living. I mean, I was 15 in high school, and I had a 3.9 GPA with a child. And I graduated, and I went to school every day. I remember a teacher telling me one day, "We tried to have a baby shower for you, but you would never skip school. You never missed a class." And I had a doctor's appointment I had to go to, but I still came back to school. And they were like, "We just didn't even have a moment to put it together, because you never skipped class. You never missed school." I just kept going. And the reason why I even got pregnant was because I went from a middle-class family that owned a house, had 2 cars, both parents working really good jobs, and my dad decided to step out and cheat on my mom, and my mom had a nervous breakdown, and my dad was focused on his new woman at the time that he eventually married, and she hated me, but he married her knowing that. And I had no one watching me. I had no one watching my brother that we're going to speak about later. And I became a mom to them too. So while my parents were doing what they were doing, I had to grow up even faster than just being a young teenage mom. So there was a lot of different things that happened. And when I got pregnant, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what life was about. I was sheltered. My dad didn't really let me wear lipstick at the time. That's why you see my lashes on my lipstick today. I wear it every day.
Rebel.
I wear it every day because of what I couldn't do. I couldn't express myself. And even to this day, I still find myself expressing myself and just finding new things about me because I wasn't able to be me. And when someone tells me that I can't do it, or, right before I went to college, 2 weeks before college, I was told I was going to fail by the same lady my dad left my mom for, that I wasn't going to make it, and that the house that was my mom's house is now her house. And when I do fail, I have nowhere to come back to because I'm not welcome. And this is me being 17 at the time. I wasn't a problem child. I didn't run away from home. I didn't do drugs. I wasn't sneaking out. I didn't do any of those things. I just had a moment in time where I had no parents. My parents were so focused on themselves that they forgot they had kids. And I had a level of freedom I've never had. And I was out there and I was getting attention and didn't know what that felt like and didn't know what to do with it. And being afraid of my dad, I hid the pregnancy. I was scared to tell them when I found out I was. And so I hid it until I was 6 months. And that's how come I ended up having my son, because I knew my dad was going to try to make me have an abortion. And even though I didn't know what that even meant or looked like, I just was scared of everything. And I just trusted God. So I went on to college and I took my son with me through all 5 years he was with me. And every once in a while, he'll go hang out with the grandparents. But for the most part, 99% of the time, he was with me. And college was amazing. I'm glad I experienced it. And then when I left college, got into radio broadcasting for a little bit. So I had my own TV show, talk show, all the good stuff. I did that for a while and there was no money in there. So, I mean, especially being a young mom, I need to have a career. So I got into property management and I've done that for 23 years, which afforded me to live in Vegas and Denver and now Hawaii. So, yeah, that's a little bit about Angelika.
Yeah, I love it. There's so much to pull from. I want to pull from your mom having this nervous breakdown, and I want to experience your lens during this nervous breakdown. I know that you kind of went on your own and they weren't focused on you, but what was the nervous breakdown like, and how did you react or respond to it? What type of things did you see during that time, and what was it that made you feel like you needed to go out and do like anything and everything?
Well, what happened was my mom, every year we had a routine before my dad stepped out. And one of those routines were he would buy things for my mom for Mother's Day. And so we would go shopping with him. And then she would wake up that morning and have breakfast and have all the gifts. And, you know, we would just spoil her. And that one Mother's Day, we did the same thing, except he wasn't there. And my mom didn't want those gifts. And she told me that I was the reason why they got a divorce. And, oh yeah, there's a lot to unpack with my mom and our relationship. But yeah, she blamed me for the divorce. She blamed me for calling my dad because at the time I didn't understand. I didn't know that he left for another woman. We were just trying to figure out what was going on. Dad wasn't home every day. And so I had called my dad and said, we gave her the gifts and she didn't want them. And he got mad and they had some words and he was headed back to the house and my mom left and never came back. I think he threatened her, from what I remember. And so the nervous breakdown, what that looked like was my mom resenting me, which my whole life she's always resented me, but that was another reason to resent me and to blame me for something that is related to adults and not a child. And my mom ended up moving like an hour away and got an apartment. And then she had visitations every other weekend. And there's a story that just came up. I remember one time it was a weekend. I have strong intuitions and we'll get into the spirituality part, but I had this really strong intuition. I shouldn't go home. It wasn't going to be safe. And it was a Sunday. And I was like, Mom, you can't take me back home. Something's going to happen to me. And I'm really scared. And at the time, I think my son was like maybe 6 months old. And she's like, I have to. It's court ordered. And I'm crying. I don't know why I'm crying. I don't know why I'm scared. I just have a feeling. And she takes me home. And the same lady my dad left my mom for, her name is Karen. Karen had went through my diary over the weekend while I was away, and I didn't know that. In the diary, I'm saying all the things. I'm calling her all the names, but it's my release. That's the only person I can like release to was my diary or thing, entity that I could release to. And so I wrote in it every single day, and I called her out of her name. And then there's days that we had good days, and I wrote that in there. But she read from A to Z, and you know they ignored when I wanted to unalive myself and how many times I put that in there. They ignored that, right? They just went for her. And my dad was in protection mode for her. And now hindsight, you know, later in life, I realized when women talk about putting period blood and spaghetti and all that, she taught me that. And I believe she did something to that degree because my dad was not my dad when he was with her. He was a different person. I wasn't daddy's little girl to her. I was just, I don't know, the relationship we had was estranged and we were always close. So I come home, it was about 7 or 8 that night. My dad was making tacos. I'll never forget. and he had put me on the Lupron shot. And I don't know if you know that, but it's like a birth control shot that you either have no cycle or you have a continuous cycle. And I had a continuous cycle for like 8 months straight. I mean, I had low iron, everything. And so my dad, when I came home, Karen was sitting at the dining room table and he was cooking. And then she's like, oh, the kids are home. And so when I walked in, he was like, oh, so you have a problem living here? And like, they just started going in on me. And she said, oh, you think I'm a bitch? And so they're just, both of them are tag teaming. And I said, you guys are double teaming me. You guys are talking to me at the same time. And he's like, we're doing what? And all I remember is the wooden spoon that he had in his hand went past my face. And then I got up, I blacked out because apparently he hit me. And I was on the right side of my son's car seat. And when I got up, I was on the left side. And my whole eye was red from the impact of him hitting me. I'm 5'1". My dad is a bodybuilder. Okay. So, that's not a fair fight. And so he hit me because he was mad that I wrote in the diary about her and she was upset about it. And he wanted to show her that he was standing up for her. And after that, I was removed from my dad's house. He kicked me out. And I was essentially out with my grandmother and then my auntie for like 4 months. And I missed a lot of school during that time. But that was my punishment for him reading my diary. So I went through a lot when my mom had her nervous breakdown because she didn't like me and hadn't liked me for some years. And I'll get into that if you ask. And then my dad no longer liked me because of his new woman at the time. So I was by myself.
The relationship between your mom and dad, was that a strong bond that you witnessed? Did it seem like pure love? And did you think that your dad left because something happened between the marriage? Or was this caring person that came in just an opportunity? Or what was that experience like as far as, did you see love between your mom and dad? And when you did see love between your mom and dad, I'm just wondering, because are you the firstborn?
Mm-hmm.
And did your mom have any other children?
Yes.
How many?
Two
other children. So do you feel like that resentment was just for you or was it for all of the children?
Just me.
Okay. So speak to what it looked like for you to witness your mom and dad's love and how did you become a resentment out of, whatever love it is. I want to know what it is first because I'm not sure what came from.
My dad, I think, felt like me witnessing it and just, being an adult now and reflecting back, my dad essentially raised my mom because my mom grew up in a foster home and her mom was an alcoholic and she just didn't practice good parenting skills in terms of like how to raise kids. And so my mom did grow up pretty rough life. And then her foster mom was really, really a devout Christian, very strict. So, you can't wear your shoulders out, type of old school behavior. You have to wear a jacket in the house, just a lot. And so witnessing my parents' love, I seen that my mom really learned a lot. She learned how to cook with my dad. She learned how to be responsible, money management, all of that. So it was, to me, a pretty normal household. There was domestic violence. When you grow up seeing that, it becomes the norm, even though it doesn't feel right, you just are used to it. And reflecting back now, like there's a lot that I found out in my 40s. Today I'm 44 and I have learned like why things happened the way they happened. I didn't realize why my mom resented me until I was in college. And one of my neighbors was really close to me and my mom would come like maybe 1 week out of a month and hang out with me and my son and just help me out when I need to study or whatever. And she's like, Angelica, I think I know why you don't have a relationship with your mom. And she said, your mom said that you're the reason why they're divorced. And I said, I know. She told me that. She's like, no. But what you don't know is that your mom said that when she wanted to be intimate with your dad, you were in the way. And I couldn't remember not one time I was in my parents' bed, that they couldn't be intimate. And she said, when you were 9 months, your mom resented you because your dad would put you in the bed with them and want you to sleep in the bed with them. And because he was so overprotective. And it made sense because he was. And my mom resented me. She felt I took away from that intimate time. So my mom resented me from the time I was born, when I became daddy's little girl and she became, to her, second fiddle, right? Like she wasn't the main one anymore and being spoiled and all the attention wasn't on her. And then I had two brothers after and she loved them unconditionally. But with me, we never had mother-daughter dates. We never went shopping together. We never went and got our hair done together. Never did any of that. I learned almost everything on my own. Like when I had my cycle, I didn't even know like what to do. I had my aunt show me, and both my parents were present at the time. My mom was just she wasn't attached to me. I mean, I remember one time I think I was in middle school, going to high school, and my dad knew that my mom didn't really like me, and she would just be mean to me for just no reason. And my dad said, she was a nurse. She's been a nurse like 33 years. And at the time she was a nurse, and he said, why don't you wash her uniforms, dry them, and then iron them and hang them up. So when she gets home from work, that'll make her happy. And I was like, okay. So she had like 20 uniforms and I washed them all. And I ironed them and I hanged them all on the hanger in our family room. And when she came home, she said, who touched my uniforms? And my dad said, Angelika. He was just so proud. And she's like, don't ever touch my uniforms again. Now I'm going to have to do it all over again.
Did you have any good times with your mom? Do you remember any stories where it was not all bad, or does it everything that she's done is overshadow any good? Like how was it? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, everything she did overshadowed. I don't remember like cuddling with her. I would cuddle with my dad. Like everything was with my dad. Nothing was ever with her. Even when she would braid my hair, in French braids growing up, I would just think I was the cutest thing. And she'll be like, you're not cute. Go in your room. Or like, she would just say mean things. Like she never told me I was pretty or beautiful. Even to this day, like I finally had to cut ties with my mom. Like I still chat with her every once in a while, but I never had boundaries. That's your parents, what's boundaries with your parents? But I had to put boundaries up because she started to treat my daughter the way she treated me. And I started to see that same behavior. And sometimes trauma will gray out or even darken memories, right? So there's sometimes like us talking right now is bringing back memories that I forgot about. But, and it's good, it's healthy. Like it's part of my healing journey to talk about it. And I can smile because I'm alive and I'm breathing, right? So it could be worse. I could be still living in the trauma and dealing with the trauma, but I've learned to like forgive. And, but I don't have good memories, to answer your question, of me and my mom it was always a family gathering of all of us together, but it was never just her and I was her only girl. So
when you were growing up, did you feel this initially, or did your dad's love kind of overshadow the fact that you had a mom this way? And then since that is the case, I see you nodding your head. Did you get to a point where you became an adult and you kind of thought about how your mom was with you, and what was that experience like? Was there like any trigger when you were just kind of like, dang, like I didn't have a good relationship with my mom? Or have you always kind of been nonchalant about it? Or has it been something that, I know you say you talked about the healing journey, and the reason why I have this question is because, the relationship between moms and daughters is a strong one, and it's different. It varies between households, but there's the person who's like really upset about it because they only had their mom. You had your dad, so it might have, balanced things out. Or then there's the people who like are nonchalant, like I didn't have a good relationship with my mom. Like I don't think that I had the most craziest experience, with my mom, but it wasn't like I've seen others where they're like, they could bond with their mom and they can say all these things and talk to them. But other people looking at me, they're like, oh, you didn't have a relationship with your mom. I'm like, it is what it is. But, it's gotten better now that I'm older because I've kind of approached it. But I'm just curious, did you ever have a moment, maybe in your adulthood or even in your childhood, when you noticed that your mother's treatment was just off, or did it seem normal for a while?
I think I've noticed as young as probably 6 or 7 when I was able to comprehend what was happening and how she was treating me. And I've always noticed, and in the diary I talked about unaliving myself, that was before Karen came into the picture. I remember once I maybe was 12 or 13 and I had some pills. I can't remember what kind of pills, but I took the whole bottle and then went to sleep, didn't want to wake up. I woke up, I didn't even get sick or anything. Like I just felt fine. And another time I was in the bathroom and my mom was on the other side of the bathroom and she used to say the most mean, most hurtful things to me. And I even want to say one time she told me to unalive myself. I remember being in the bathroom, sitting on the floor, and I was just crying. And she's on the other side of the door, and she wants me to open it, and I don't want to because I don't want to hear what she's trying to tell me. And I took a plastic bag and I put it around my head. And of course, like that's a hard way to, unalive yourself. But that's something that I tried to do. Like I just didn't want to be on earth because I would, like you, see other people with their moms and they're going to get their hair pressed and just doing normal daughter-mother things, going shopping together. And it's not that my mom couldn't do it. She just chose not to. She would do those things for my brothers. And so I really focused on just doing well in school. And you're right, the relationship with my dad just kind of overshadowed that. He's the one who taught me how to cook. I had like aunts and my friends' moms teach me what it's like to be a woman. And they wouldn't per se tell me directly. I would just watch. I would just see the relationships they had and see how they were as women to their kids or just women, period. And I just emulated the things that I liked and I pulled from that, which taught me to be who I am today.
Is that your mom's sisters or your dad's sisters, your aunts?
My dad's side.
Now, this is interesting because moving on to Karen just a little bit, Karen is also a woman in your life who doesn't like you.
Mm-mm.
Did that ever sit with you where like you had a bad relationship with women, or what was your relationship with women like moving forward? I know you spoke about your aunt, so I'm guessing it wasn't that bad, but I'm thinking my mom and my stepmom, like close quarters. Why do you think you had this sport with Karen? Was it just because of your dad, or like, can you speak to like who she was and where she came from and why she even felt
Yeah,
this?
I'll tell you how she even came in the picture. So my dad, he had a best friend and that best friend introduced them. And I don't know what the conversation was. Like if my dad's like, I'm ready to leave my wife, I'm tired. I don't know. I just know that he met Karen and they end up having a relationship. And I feel like a lot of times when men leave their woman, they always go backwards, right? Like she's not doing better than the person that she was with. Maybe you're getting something that you're lacking from in your marriage, that's why you're going to her. And I'm not down anybody for any of this when I say this disclaimer, but her house was filthy. She was on welfare. Like she didn't like cook or clean or do any of the things. Like, I don't know. It could have just been a sexual connection. And that's what I have no idea. But when I met her, my dad introduced me to her and it was like my superhero just was deflated. I lost respect for him because, you didn't do it the right way. You didn't have that conversation with us about next steps of we're divorcing and this is what's happening so that we could process. It was like, he's still with my mom, but then he has this lady too. So when he introduced us, it was, I don't know. I like I said, I was never disrespectful. My parents didn't raise me that way. So I wasn't an unruly child. I think what happened with Karen was she found a way to do the things that my mom never did. Like she would ask about our relationship. And I'm sure my dad had pillow talk and told her like, she's just not close with her mom. So she capitalized on that. And then I opened up to her. I shared stories about what my mom would put me through. And she was the exact opposite. I had no choice. I was a child. Like, where was I going to go? Like, I can't run away anywhere. So I was forced to live in this environment. Eventually, Karen moved in. And when she moved in, she turned everything around and became everything she knew my mom was to me. And she would take my brothers out for ice cream and bring me back nothing. Just the mean, cruel things just to hurt me. And some people would have probably succumbed to it. I dealt with a lot, and being a single mom at the time, she even got my son to call her mom while I was living in the house. And she would brag about it. Like, your son is calling me mom. I just kept going to school. I just said, all I got to do is get out of here. And so I just didn't want to cause ruffles because I knew that she was in charge. Even though my dad was always head of household, he was the man of the house, she changed that relationship to where he did everything she wanted him to do. And so I knew that I couldn't be on her bad side. I remember one time her nieces came into town and they sat in a room and they just talked about me in the same house my mom and my dad bought for us. And I knew they were talking about me and I couldn't do anything about it. And I just tried to stay in my room and just keep my head down and just not cause trouble, just so I can get out of there.
Thank you for, sharing all of this. Mm-hmm. Just to break it up a little bit, okay. I want to play a game.
Okay.
Before we segue into this next section. So this is a game that I play called Our Thought, Their Thought, or Remix for those who are listening for the first time or watching. The game is all unpopular opinions. Sometimes it comes with reels, or we'll look at a segment. Today we have all unpopular opinions. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share it with Angelika, read out in the chat, and I'm going to guess whether she agrees, disagrees, or she's somewhere in the middle. So Our Thought completely agrees. Their Thought means that it completely belongs to the author of their thought, and remix means that maybe she has questions or she don't twerk it. Twerk it. I don't know if that's the way it's remix it, tweak it a little bit. Whoa. Okay, so I'm going to put this first one in the chat, and then we'll go from there.
Being a parent is miserable much of the time.
Our Thought, Their Thought, or remix. Don't show me. Just let me know when you're ready. So I'm going to guess that it's their thought is based off this conversation. Remix. Okay. All right. So don't tell me anything why. Okay. Here's the next one.
All people are self-serving. No one is truly altruistic. If you feel good after doing something good, then you're still getting a benefit from your kind act. That's self-serving when in doubt.
And all right, let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready. So, okay.
Okay.
You ready?
Hold on, no, not ready. I'm going to put this, you put remix. I thought so. Okay. I was like, yeah. All right. Here is the next one.
Most people don't actually want freedom. That's it?
Yep.
Okay.
Our Thought, Their Thought, or remix. Let me know when you're ready. Remix. Okay. Remix. I thought that because we didn't go into the extended. I was like, yeah. All right, here's the next one. Read that out loud for us.
Okay. Nonviolent protests can be extremely destructive, not physically destructive, but destructive to their cause.
Okay. Our Thought, Their Thought, or remix. I'm going to say Their Thought.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was going to say something else. I'm actually surprised at that one. Okay. Here is the next one. And you don't have to say this curse word. You can say the BS for it.
Okay.
And then I'm going to add a picture in here too.
Culture appropriation is BS.
And then read what they wrote in that
culture. In the picture?
Mm-hmm.
90% of the time, people being accused of culture appropriation aren't really doing anything wrong unless they're wearing something with significant religious cultural meaning. There's nothing wrong with it. White people with cornrows aren't culture appropriating. Are cornrows part of an ancient Black tradition that can only be done on a full moon or something like that? No. They're just a hairstyle typically worn by Black people, but can be worn by anyone.
I want to put that you put Their Thought.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Mm-hmm. All right, so here is the next one.
You're only valuable for what you provide to others. No one cares that you're a nice person or that you try hard. If you want to get anywhere in life, you have to produce things for other people. People need things, and you will not make friends, find a house, get a job, or get a promotion unless you provide something to deserve that attention, that relationship, that job, or that money. you have to put effort in and effort beyond what your personality offers.
I thought they thought remix.
Let me just ponder for 1 second.
Okay. I'm still here. I'm just getting a charger.
Okay.
All right. You got it?
Yes.
All right. So since you said ponder for 1 second, I'm going to go with remix. No?
There that.
There that. Okay. All right. And this should be our last one.
A degree is usually seen like a life insurance, and people are buying it with blind faith.
Our thought, their thought, or remix.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. I'm going to put that you put our thought.
Yep. Our thought.
All right. So if you can remember any of them, if you want, I can choose for you. But if there's anyone that you want to elaborate on why you chose our thought, their thought, or remix, this is your time now. Only one.
Okay. I'm going to do the one that probably a lot of people don't really talk about that we should, right? And it's the first one, being a parent is miserable much of the time. It's miserable because 90% of the time we're the ones choosing the life for us. And what I mean by that is, we're young, we're laying up, we're having sex unprotected, and we don't vet the person that we're having sex with. And a lot of it is lack of education. When we're growing up, our parents don't really talk to us about relationships and how the opposite sex thinks and what their goals are and what life is really like raising kids. Like, you just hear, like, don't have kids, don't have sex young, but you don't know the why behind it. And then when you become a single mom, it's not the parenting part of it. It's just being miserable because your life is over. And if you're a good parent, your kids go first. And so everyone is in Cancun and Tulum and Bali and having a good time, and you have responsibilities. And being a parent is not a bad thing, but it's important that you vet your partner. You don't necessarily have to get married, but you really take the time out to get to know them. And I've been doing a lot of research on Steve Harvey. Like, there's some truth in what he says about the 90-day rule. These endorphins that we release that make us attached to someone, and it's called soul tie. And you have a soul tie with that person, and you wonder why you like this toxic individual. It's because once your souls become one, it's hard to detach. But if you're not asking those hard questions, like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Or what are your values and morals when it comes to raising kids? And what's your spiritual thoughts on life? Whatever those things are, you're not asking those questions because all you see is intimacy, the physical looks of the person, what they're providing for you, but you're not looking long term. And then when you get pregnant, you think all of a sudden, abracadabra, this person is going to be magical. They're just going to be the best parent, the best partner. And you haven't even asked them if they wanted to be a partner. That those conversations are not had. So yeah, you are miserable if you don't take the time out to vet your partner. People say 18 years, but it's life. You have these kids for life. It's not just 18 years. It's what society says. And so I think that you could be miserable if you don't take the time out to get to know that person, because sometimes after you have the child, there's a whole new individual you meet. That person doesn't want to be around their kid, male or female, or they don't want to come to, parent-teacher conference, or you're the only one finding childcare and struggling. I mean, you are choosing this life for you. You are choosing to be miserable, and there's not a lot of ownership. It's so easy to place blame on the other person, but it took two to make that person, those babies, whatever. And so if you don't take ownership in it, then who are you to get mad at the person that you laid down with because you was doing everything which way to Sunday. And so now that person doesn't want to be in your life the way you want them to, that's nobody's fault but yours. You have to take ownership for it. And so that's the part where, being a parent can be miserable because nobody really asks to do it by themselves. Most of the time you want to be with the person that you were with, but you don't know anything about them.
So you had your first child. Do you only have one child?
Two.
You had your first child when you were young. So I'm thinking, with that decision making, it probably went way wired. Did you choose an intentional route with whoever is in your life now, or is that a story to be told?
So with my son, obviously I was a kid, having a kid So I didn't know what I was doing, but I quickly rerouted my life, and I made a success out of it. You know, I did try to be with his dad. When I got to college, I gave him an option, and he chose to stay in San Diego, and he regrets it to this day. But you know, that's 28 years ago. So I've moved past that. And with my daughter, it was intentional. I was married. It was planned. And even still, like with that relationship, I was 24. So I didn't know anything about vetting anyone to that degree that I just shared with you. So I did the best that I could with what I knew. But now, you know, at the age I am now, I know how to do all the things, but I'm done having kids. So
yeah. Are you still in a relationship with your daughters? Okay.
No, that
are you in a relationship at all?
No, I'm single right now. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what is that like? Are you looking for love? Do you want love? Are you over it? Do you want to wait till the children are at least on their own, or?
No, I think that I'm best when I'm in love. You know, I love relationships. I just look at life as a lesson. I think it's important to spend time with yourself before jumping into another relationship. And for me, it's just about enjoying life. And if the universe aligns me with someone that we have mutual interest, and I'm open to it. I'm ready for my partner.
No, that's right. So parenting and motherhood, we can go right back into where we were before and kind of speak to that relationship that your mom had with your brothers. For those who are listening, there was a reason why I reached out to Angelika, and I want to talk about it now as we're talking about parenting, we're talking about your mom, we're just talking about relationships. I saw a comment, and your comment was speaking to you solving your brother's case.
Yeah, okay. We could start at the time that my parents divorced or separated due to infidelity, because that's what changed the trajectory of his life. I was 16. Actually, I was 14. He was 12. And then my youngest brother was 10. We're 2 years apart in age. So when my parents split up, like I said, we all got this newfound freedom. And me and my middle brother, who we're going to be talking about, we just found freedom in different ways, right? Like I was enjoying the attention, and he ended up joining a gang. And so I knew there were things that he was doing, but because of our bond, and it got stronger because of our parents separating, we kind of depended on each other. And it was kind of flight or fight a little bit. Like we still had all the essentials that we needed, but we just didn't have our parents. And that's what we grew up having, that structure and routine, like family trips every year to Disneyland. Like we did fun things as a family. And, you know, we lost that when my dad left. And so my brother went to the streets, and I went to the streets in a different way. And then my youngest brother was just a homebody. So he didn't do anything. He was with my dad most of the time. And so, yeah, when my parents separated, I remember my brother turning 14, and he had gun and bullets in the house. And I'm like, you better get that out the house, or I'm telling on you. And so he got it out the house. And so he was never a documented gang member, but he was in a gang. And so when I graduated from college, I came back to San Diego and got into property management. I got promoted to the Bay Area. And then I just started moving around after that. Before I moved from the Bay Area to Vegas, I remember having 2 dreams. And I was pregnant with my daughter at the time. And I remember trying to tell him about my dream. And it was basically about him being unalived. And I was trying to get him to move to the Bay Area. And I didn't know everything that went on in his life because he kept it separate. You know, he's like, my sister's a square. She don't know anything. And so his life was always separate. So when we would hang out, it would just be normal brother and sister hanging out, not anything to do with his life. And as he got older, I don't know if you remember Pimp My Ride, but he used to do that. He used to go to the auction and then go to Mexico, because Tijuana is like right across the border from San Diego. And he would take the cars that his clients would request and take it to Mexico and pimp it out however they wanted it. And he would make cash profit. And that was his business. So he got out of gang banging and that lifestyle, and he had his own business. And I learned this through trial, going through the trial of his murder trial. When you're in a gang, there's OGs, and the OGs require that you pay tax to them. So like some celebrities like Chris Brown and certain people have to pay tax in order to even perform in LA. It's a thing. I didn't know that. So that's how you keep your life, and they will also protect you while you're performing or whatever. So it's a real like organized deal. And so my brother ignored the OG, and the same OG was known for unaliving other people and not getting caught for it, because unfortunately in the Black community, we don't snitch. You know, we don't tell on anyone. We can know all the facts and we're afraid, right? And we're afraid because we don't trust the system. And so because we don't trust the system, you can know all of the facts about a crime and it's unsolved. And I remember one time trying to tell my brother about this dream that I kept having, and he told me, no, I don't want to hear it. And there were a lot of little things that he did leading up to his murder that kind of made me feel like he knew that something was going to happen. And
like what?
Oh, okay. We get into it. I'm going to give you a couple other little stories too, just so you know. So my brother, whenever I would call him and he was busy, he would always say, I'm going to call you back. And one time he was eating tacos, and in San Diego, that's the thing. You eat Mexican tacos. Mexican food is the thing in San Diego. So he was eating tacos. And I remember him saying, I have to go pay my car insurance. And he's like, but I'm eating my tacos first. And I was like, okay, let me call you back. And he was like, no, I want to talk to you. And I remember crying, because I knew something was wrong, that he's never done that. It's always, I'm gonna call you back or call me back in an hour or whatever. And he wanted to stay on the phone. And this is me having these dreams and I can't share this with him. Another thing he did right before he passed in November, he came up to the Bay Area with my uncle, and I was married at the time, and they cooked Thanksgiving dinner. And my brother, they called him G Diddy instead of P Diddy, because he was just popular like that. So he wasn't sleeping and cooking and chopping things up. So he was in my kitchen doing all those things. And so that was just like another thing that he just never did before. He just always had VIP. You know, he just had that presence. Like you go places, he had an entourage. Like he wasn't sleeping and cleaning. So for me to see him doing that, it was just all these signs. And at the time, my dad married Karen, and he, had a grudge with her. And so he had made amends, and they had a 2-hour conversation. And then he was kind of upset with my dad because he felt abandoned, and men especially don't really talk about how they feel. So he was able to have like an 1.5-hour conversation with my dad. So I felt like he was just closing doors and loops and just doing things that he's never done. And I just felt like he knew that his time was coming. And I think sometimes people know when they're going to die, and they just do things, and you look at their actions leading up to the death that just make you know, like they know something. So that was November. December, I went down there and spent time with him for Christmas, and we spent that time together. And that was the first time he allowed me in his world. And I remember he had a hotel that he rented a whole suite. It was like 2 rooms together. He had flat screen up, or projector, and then he had all of his friends. And I remember pulling into the hotel, and I've never met any of these guys. Like I probably knew 2 main guys, that's it. And there was 4 guys at the entrance of the hotel waiting for me, and they escorted me into the hotel room. I just felt like a celebrity. And then I get in there, and I'm pregnant, but they're in there smoking, and like music is going. And I was sitting next to my brother, and I just felt protected. And I was like, he finally let me in his world. And that was in December, right before I left to come back to the Bay Area. And then he was murdered in January 26th. And so what happened was, I was 4 months pregnant at the time, and I had just started a new job, and I was in the first week of training, and I got a few missed calls from his fiance, and I knew that he was gone. Like just by having those missed calls, I didn't even pick up the phone. I knew that he was deceased. I just knew it. And I asked to be excused out of the training. And I went to talk to my supervisor at the time. And I said, my brother's deceased, And at this time I did talk to the fiance, but I already knew when she had called that that's what she was calling me for. And she said that he had been missing for 24 hours, and I knew he was deceased because my brother is not missing. Like, everybody knows where he's at. So I told her that he's deceased and I need to go home and find him. And she let me leave. And it was a Wednesday, I got the call, and I took Thursday, Friday off. Thursday, this was when MySpace was around. I didn't do that Thursday. Actually, Friday, I called Enterprise Rent-A-Car. So I don't rent with them anymore because they can track their vehicles, especially new vehicles. And my brother and his fiance had rented a Dodge Magnum, and it was a hatchback, and the back is tinted. And they had rented it to go to Vegas. And because it wasn't also in his name, they wouldn't help me. So the rental was in her name, so they wouldn't help me track his car. I figured if we find the car, we're going to find him. Don't ask me how. A sixth sense, a gift. I don't know. I just knew that if I found the car, I'll find my brother. So I got all the way up to the president. And he would not help me. I called the police department, but unfortunately, if you're an adult, certain states are 24 hours. California's 24 hours. You have to be missing before they'll call in a search. So I just exhausted all my resources Thursday, and I was hitting dead ends. So I have a friend who works for Google, and back then in MySpace, you couldn't just upload a picture. You had to have a code. And so I did not do that. So I asked him, how do I do codes? And so he taught me how to do the codes, and I picked a picture of my brother. I found the white Dodge Magnum that he had rented, just a random picture from internet. And then I did his last known description of what he had on, where he was seen, all the above. I posted that on Friday at 2:00. At 5:00, I got a call from the school bus driver. And she said, and how I got the call was I posted the bulletin, and then my youngest brother reposted it, and she was friends with him. And so my number was on there, my contact, everything. So she called me and said, for the last few days, I've been driving the school bus route, and I've seen this car. I've never seen this car before. So something told me to just go down there once I saw your bulletin to see if that's the same car, because it was parked at an angle, the back windows were rolled down, and it hadn't moved. And it was on a regular street with houses in a residential area. And so she said, I'm at the car and I know you're pregnant. Can I walk with you through the car, what I see? So she went to the front window and she said, I don't see anything in the front seat. She got to the back window. There was a bowl and a fork. The last thing my brother had was rice. So that's what was in the car. And then she got to the hatchback portion of it, and it was tinted. So she had to peer in, and she said, your brother is here. And that's how I found my brother. And I immediately called the media because that was my degree, mass communication. I knew that if it didn't get in the media, it never happened and we wouldn't be heard. And so I got the media to be present at the crime scene, and it was over 300 people there when I arrived. So I got on the flight. Well, let me tell you what happened before I got on the flight. So I'm packing, and my best friend at the time comes to the house to take me to the airport, and I'm holding it together. I think the only time I let out a cry is when she said, I found him, because the only thing I could think of was that my brother was cold and he was by himself, and I just needed to find him. I knew he was gone, and I didn't want to be too emotional because I was pregnant. So I just didn't want to upset myself any more than I already was. And so I just kept calm, but I just remember throwing my phone and just kind of a relief, because a lot of people don't even find their missing loved ones. So the fact that I found him, I was thankful for that. And so I remember at the time I had Victoria's Secret perfume, and you lift the lid and it'll whistle at you. It was a cute perfume. And so in the box. And so I remember having it on the counter, and I didn't touch it. I'm packing, I'm in my closet, and it whistled at me. And I was like, okay, paranormal. I just felt like it was my brother, right? When I got on the flight, it was a Southwest flight. And because I was pregnant, I got to board in the early boarding, even though my flight, I just bought it the same day to go to San Diego, just a one way, just straight there. And I was sitting in the front seat, and I remember looking outside, and it was not even 6:30. Like I literally booked the next flight, got in, like, I don't even know how I packed that quick, but anyways, it was like still light out. I can remember the sun still being out, but it was setting. And I looked out and, you know, the flight attendant that like directs the flight going back, he had his wands in his hand, but he was looking at me and we're boarding. So we're not ready to go back yet. And he goes, "Are you okay?" Like mouth it to me. And I'm not crying. I'm not doing anything where it's like, but it's just like, that was my brother. Like it was like using people. So then when I get to San Diego, my other friend picks me up from the airport and she's parked next to a white Dodge Charger with the lights still on. Nobody's in the car. And so I'm seeing this. I'm seeing all these signs. It was like my brother was leading me to him because we were really, really close. And as we were going to the crime scene, it was 3 white Dodge Magnums that pulled out in front of us. And so my friend is still around and she could tell you because she's seen, I'm like, "Do you see this? Do you see these Dodge Magnums?" She's like, "Angelika, I don't know what's going on." So she takes me to the crime scene. And so I thought I had to identify the body because the detective called me and said, "I need to identify the body." So I wasn't ready for that. And I didn't have to when I got there, thank God. So I got immediately, there was an investigation. The detective was like asking me questions, like asking me how I, like what I did on the back end to like start the investigation, and asked me questions like, "Do I think I know anyone who harmed my brother?" And I didn't know anything. And so they're really, really nice to me. And then essentially right after my interview, that's when they pulled my brother's body out the car. So it was about 7:38 is when they finally pulled him out the car. So it's almost like they waited for me to get there before they did anything, which again, I'm thankful for. And I don't think has anything to do with the actual individuals. It's just the way God works and the way everything was set up. And so I had a lot of support being there. What happened was I ended up working with the detectives because they cared so much about my brother. They said that in all the years that they've been working in crimes and murders and that sort of thing in that division, they've never had someone work with them. And so they showed me their whiteboard, and their whiteboard showed all of the unsolved black crimes versus white crimes or any other race. And ours was all in black, meaning unsolved. Uh-huh. And then everyone else was like red, and maybe 2 new ones that they just got on their plate. You know, there's just so many resources out there, but because they're so scared, they don't know that. They don't know that they can change your name and relocate you and pay for your relocation expenses. People are so used to growing up in a certain area, in a certain neighborhood, they're scared to leave. They don't know what it means to start over. And maybe we need more resources in teaching what that looks like, right? Because the fear of the unknown will stop you from getting a crime solved. Just there's not a lot of information about that. And so when my brother's trial came on, there's money that paid for me to come to all of his court cases, hotels, food. That's all paid by the state. Like that's all money that just sits there. Therapy, that was funded through the state. And so anyways, long story short of how we solved the crime and found the people, there was 2 guys that were part of it. One guy was named Andre, and he turned himself in. So here's another thing I learned about being in that world that we're not privy to is if you're in prison and somebody puts money on your books, your repayment is whatever they want when you get out. And so the purpose of why my brother even died was really an accident. What it was my brother was avoiding the OG, Octavius is his name. He was avoiding him. He was calling him. And I ended up getting all the phone records before the police. And I gave it to them. You could see all the times he called my brother and he was asking for money. And my brother was ignoring him. And the street that I grew up on, there was family members that lived next door. They weren't our family members, but we grew up with them since age 12, 13. So they were like family. My brother went over to their house thinking he was just going for a visit, not realizing he was being set up. And he didn't have a pow with him, which he normally carries with him. And he ended up getting jumped. And the Andre guy is like the size of Suge Knight. And my brother's the size of Tupac. And the other guy is the size of Kobe Bryant. And my brother beat up the Octavius guy, but Andre, he didn't stand a chance, and he sat on him and he broke his neck. And my brother died from his neck being broke. And but really, they tied him up to rob him. They were going to rob him. That was what the purpose of him going over there, and he didn't know that. And so he ended up sitting on him while the other guy tied him up, and that's how my brother died. So they didn't even get a chance to rob him. So they put him in the back of the car. Also, too, they took off all the clothes, because if somebody gets murdered in prison, they'll take off all the clothes of that person to remove evidence. Helps them, like, so I didn't know that either. Learned that too. So they took off all my brother's clothes, and all he had on was boxers and socks when we found him. And so the guy who literally just got out of prison, Andre, had just got out of prison like 2 weeks before my brother was unalived and went back to prison. But he turned himself in, and he wrote a letter to our family apologizing, saying he didn't know my brother, and that he owed a favor, and he didn't realize it was going to turn into this, and he's very sorry. But that was evidence, so we didn't get it until the trial was over. And then the other one, so at this point, I was in New York on TV because my story became nationwide and then worldwide. And so I was on this show called Mike and Julia. It was a live show, and it was in New York, and they flew me out there, and I was telling the story, and I was like, please let me show his picture. Please let me show his picture. And the detective was like, no, we can't let you. And then like last minute, they sent it. They allowed me to show his picture. And so we got his picture on the TV. And I would say maybe a month later, they found him. They found him in Macon, Georgia, hiding in a shed, dehydrated, lips chapped, looking horrible. And the detectives flew out there to get him. And they're like, what are you doing in a shed way out in the middle of nowhere? And he's like, she's crazy. And they're like, who are you talking about? And he was talking about me. He's like, I told all the news reporters that interviewed me that the only person that I fear is God, and I'm about to get this guy. And I did. And they both got 25 years to life. And just coincidentally, his hearing for him to his parole hearing has come up. And I learned this too, that even the person that committed the crime has rights, and his rights were violated. So we had a parole hearing like about 2 months ago, and we had to cancel it and reschedule because he wasn't given 60-day notice to go through any of the evidence or any type of legal documentation needed to prepare for the hearing. So we had to reschedule it. So it's going to be coming up pretty soon again, where I have to see his face and talk to him. But that was the hardest thing, to see my dad cry. You know, it's like you're being re-victimized, because this person has rights, and they have a right at their parole hearing to be heard. And so they didn't give him 60 days to prepare. And so we have to give him that time, even though this guy's a monster. You know, 2 weeks before he murdered my brother, he was in North Carolina, and he sodomized a guy in a hotel room with a broom. When I say this guy's demonic, he's demonic. During the trial, I didn't even tell you, there were 12 witnesses. I was the 12th witness. He threatened all of them except me. One of them was beat up, put in a burning car. The DA's house, the lady who represented our family, the attorney, her house was shot up. There was a young girl who was 18 who had like a 1-year-old. Her baby's life was threatened to be unalived. I mean, every single witness was afraid of him, but he was afraid of me, because fear does nothing but allow the enemy to like win. And I think that's why I could still smile today, because that's the goal, right? To see you depressed, to see you sad, to see you give up. That's that he wins. But when you can see the bright side of everything, even through the storm, like he loses. And I made him during the victim statement turn around and look at me. Everybody else, he was rude to my aunts, rude to everybody who had something to say. I said, when I talk, you're going to turn around and look at me. And he did. He didn't do anything. He didn't make a noise, a remark, a facial expression. Even during the trial, like one time the DA was wrapping up her paperwork, and he was still sitting at the table shackled. And he's like, you fuck effing bitch. And she jumped, and everybody jumped. And because, this guy has threatened everybody except me. And I was the most vocal one. People are like, I have information. I'm like, come to my mom's house. I was gathering all the data as much as I can because that's what I do for those that I love.
Oh, wow. I want to sit with what's really powerful, what you said last about the fear and him not threatening anyone but you and just that relationship with God. You mentioned some things, and I want us to kind of segue into, because I think you covered it all here. I do have one question. What's your brother's name?
Gregory Harper.
Okay. When you were at Enterprise and you mentioned that his fiance owned the car, why couldn't you go the route of just getting her to get the information from them if she was the car owner? That just kind of stood out.
Because they wouldn't even, it didn't matter who called, even if it was her, like they weren't going to help us.
And that was a part of their policy that they can't tell you about a track car. Is that
they're saying that they can't track the vehicle, but you absolutely can. It was a brand new car. There is technology where they can track their vehicle and know their whereabouts. Absolutely.
Okay. Just interested in that piece. So, okay. This is a good segue to God, spirituality, your relationship with God. Talk about that as it relates to the story with your brother, and then a little bit of because you said the paranormal. Mm-hmm. Some people, assign that to different things. Some people assign it to a spiritual world. Some people assign it to, demons and the relationship with God. What is your faith? Do you practice anything?
I grew up Baptist and then Christian and then moved into non-denominational. I don't practice anything. I have learned a lot about a life, period, and just manifesting and speaking words, how much power words have, and just speaking into the universe. And I just feel like our history has been a lot of lies. And so I'm uncovering a lot of those lies and learning the truth about that and how it applies to me. And I'm still learning my sixth sense. I know that I have one. I know that I have very strong intuition. And so with that, like during that time, I still believe in God. I believe in a higher power. I'm not overly religious at all. I don't believe in that. I believe that a lot of different religions have some positivity in it. And so I like to pull from a lot of things. So when I said paranormal, I didn't mean it in the demonic sense, because there's definitely that world. But paranormal just meaning that there's different dimensions and there's different levels to our worlds. And I do believe that my brother is my ancestor. Back then, I didn't know about ancestors too much. And I think that he definitely was there with me, but he was able to manifest himself a lot, very powerful in that way. I didn't tell you about a story. One time I was writing his obituary and I was trying to post it so everybody knew where the wake would be and where his funeral would be. And I'm typing. And as I'm typing, I don't know if you know the sound when you have a fresh trash bag in a trash can and it's empty, but you put a piece of paper in it and that paper falls in. There's like a certain sound that it makes. So I'm typing and I'm thinking the fiance is coming into the room because she's taking her braids out and we're spending time together getting ready for the funeral. And I see this shadow come behind me, like in my peripheral. And I thought it was her and I just didn't think much of it. And then I heard her voice in the other room and I realized like, okay, I heard an exit out the wall. But I saw this shadow and I asked her if it was her and she said, no, I haven't even been in the room. I was like, please don't ever do that. And then when I went to the wake, because I was pregnant, all your senses are heightened and I could smell. I thought they sprayed some perfume on them, and I didn't realize that at funeral homes, they only put on the body what you give them. That's it. So if you don't give them cologne or perfume, they're not going to put on the body. So I thought they sprayed cologne, and I asked them, oh, what did you guys spray on my brother? He has a different scent. And they were like, oh, if you didn't give us cologne, we didn't spray anything. And I'm like, that's interesting. And I smelled that scent for like 6 months after he died in the hotel room I was in the cars that I was in, whether it's a rental car or my car. So I knew he was like with me, but he just didn't manifest himself so I could see him. But the perfume bottle opening and like me not touching it and it whistling at me, the guy at the airport, the cars that were in front of me, like all these things I felt because we were so close and he protected me so much. So yeah, I would say I'm more spiritual and definitely not the demonic paranormal, but just there's paranormal activity. It could be demonic or it could be positive. It definitely was positive when it comes to my brother.
Did you ever question God? Did you have a lapse in your belief when your brother died? Or did it feel, it wasn't something that you understood and you didn't connect God to that outcome?
I definitely felt, because of my relationship with God and me having more than a mustard seed of faith, is why his crime was solved, and solved so quickly. And the people that did it were found and justice was served. That's, I believe, me having that faith and having forgiveness in my heart was the reason why everything, I was blessed. I mean, I was protected. I was protected from a world I didn't even know. I didn't understand. Like, I don't live by the street oath of like not snitching or talking. Like, I don't live by that oath. I never did, never will. And so because of that, I'm going against a whole different grain of people that believe in it. And, you know, could be retaliation, and there was none. And I was very public. I was very open. I was on the media. I was everywhere to find the person that did it. So I didn't question God. I mean, over my life, I have had questions. Like, why do kids suffer? Why, I want to know. Like, I know the circle of life, we're here and we're going to be gone one day. I get that. I just wonder, why do we have to suffer leaving? And there's a lot of questions that I have, but I never questioned him because I think he warned me in my dreams. And so I was prepared for it mentally. Like, I was able to go into action mode and just figure out what to do next. I didn't have time to cry or be sad or feel depressed. I just went into action mode of, how can I find my brother? Because it's so unnatural to outlive your parents, to outlive you, right? And so I knew my parents were going through a lot. And so I just wanted to take that burden off them and do everything. I did everything. I dealt with a lot with my brother's funeral. Like, I think I went through 7 different churches before I was able to find a church, because my mom's sisters were against me. They were against me because my mom put me in charge of his life insurance. And so everybody wanted a piece of that. I wasn't even thinking about that. I'm thinking about how I'm going to bury my brother, and everybody wanted a limo. They wanted this, they wanted that. There was a whole committee that my mom's sisters had. She had 7 sisters, and they all had a meeting to go against me. And all I'm doing is trying to bury my brother and solve the crime. I had another auntie say, all you want to do is be in the media. But I'm like, that's how I solve my brother's crime. Like, we don't get the same coverage as everybody else. So if it's not in the media, nobody's going to know and nobody's going to care. And that's just what it is. And so I just went through a lot. And so I had to go through 7 different churches, because that same aunt called every church and said, your church is going to get shot up. And so finally found a pastor who's like, I don't want detectives and police there in plain clothes. They have to be visible, because our goal was to still find him, because this is during the time that we're finding the second guy. And sometimes the person that committed the crime will also be present at the crime scene and at the funeral and all of that, because they just know no one's going to talk. So he wasn't. He was hiding in the shed. But yeah, my faith didn't waver. It actually got stronger.
What makes your faith so strong?
I think going through what I've been through in life, the times that I tried to take my life and it wasn't unsuccessful, like, I have a purpose and I know why I'm here on earth. And it took me a while to learn that, but I understand what my purpose is. And because I know that, I'm going to live in it to the fullest, and I'm going to fulfill that purpose and why I'm here. And one of them is to help others. And that's why, I became a life coach, because I knew that that was a gift that I have, and that I grew up really quickly and I was mature really quickly. And I just have a lot of wisdom, and I know that it's to be shared. It's to be shared with others, and my testimony is to be shared with others. And so because of that, my faith is strong and my belief is strong, and I've seen things that other people haven't seen. And just my whole brother's case and trial and all of that, and seeing everybody who's afraid of one individual person, that was definitely demonic. Now that we could talk as being demonic, because this guy has no soul, no spirit. And there's so many other stories that he's done things to people. So being able to witness that and know that even just the mustard seed of faith and how you could be protected. I wasn't hiding. I wasn't like at some remote location and it was top secret. Like, I'm literally in the neighborhood and I'm looking for this person and I'm not ashamed or scared. And so I knew that level of protection is just, it's not common, right? So just being able to witness that's what's helped me a lot.
Do you see or hear your brother now?
Every once in a while, get a scent of him. Being in Hawaii, that's a whole nother conversation. It's really tough to live out here. So I'm trying to come back to the mainland. And I remember I had a rough day, and we have rough days. And I remember just crying and just like questioning, like, why am I even here? And I just went through this whole rabbit hole, and I felt my brother. And he was no joke. If he was here, he would be like, shake some sense into me. But I felt his presence, and it just calmed me. It was like, okay, Angelika, like, get it together. Your ancestors are right here and you're not alone. But yeah, my daughter, she's 16 and she left in July because she didn't like it here. Believe it or not, there's racism in Hawaii. Oh, and so she left because she couldn't take it in high school and went with her dad. And so it's been rough for me. And I just had a moment and I just felt his presence and I was like, okay, I felt peace. So he hasn't come around like he used to, but he used to come in dreams. I have a funny story. My dad was like, I don't want him buried in any gang color, so I want a tuxedo. And I was like, yes, sir. So I went and got a tuxedo. And my brother came to me in a dream in the gang colors. And he was just laughing. And I felt like we were in an elementary school, and he had like came around a corner and their colors was red, gray, and white. And so the tie was red and the shirt was white, and then the tuxedo was gray. And he was like, I wore it anyway. So he was a jokester. And then I had another time I had a friend, the same one that picked me up from the airport in San Diego. Her best friend her mom is a psychic. And she said one time her mom was having a reading, and she said my brother came through on somebody else's reading, and he was just a jokester. And I think it was for that message to get back to me that, he's fine and he's happy. But all the dreams I've had of him is him laughing and just at peace, and all of that is just, for me, it's so easy to go into a dark space, right? It's so easy to be sad. It's so easy to be depressed, but it's really hard to look at the bright side of life when you're going through something. And so that is a challenge for myself, is to always try to look at the bright side of things, because it could be worse. I watched First 48 and I had to stop watching that because it's just sad, because most of the crimes are not solved, right? But you watch these crime stories and you see how families, they don't have closure. They don't know where the body is. They don't know who did it to their family member, and they have to live with that for the rest of their life. And the bright side of it is that I got closure, that I know where my brother is. I was able to bury him, and wasn't a lot of trauma to his body, and just, it's sad all around, but it could always be worse. And so you just got to be thankful for what you do have and just work with that. And that's just my philosophy.
I appreciate you sharing your perspective with the fact that you actually went through this, because I actually did a video. It's so interesting that you said these terms that just came through. But I did a video, and it was about the cliches that we hear or the sayings that we always say, and how sometimes it can be insensitive. So it's like, look on the bright side, it could be worse, like everything you pretty much said. Mm-hmm. But what I think is so powerful, and I hope that I can, use this part, is that you actually went through these things and you're seeing these things. It's not someone outside who's not experiencing it. You're seeing this. So if you could just leave us with, and couple this with your life coaching. I know you said you got into it because you wanted to help, but if it came from anything else and why you felt passionate about that, maybe close us out with, how can someone go through so many things and still be okay with those cliches? Do you truly believe it? Paint a picture or map it out just a little bit more, because I don't know if you ever considered it that way, but sometimes those statements, if it's coming from someone who hasn't been through things, or they can only see the bright things, like I haven't been through a lot of things, and these are things that I would want to say to people, because I do know the power of positivity. I do know the power of our words, and like you said, it's so easy to think hard and dark, but it takes a lot of work too to be positive. Let's close out on life coaching, positive thinking, what your strategy is, how people can connect with you if you're open.
Yeah, absolutely. To answer the first question you asked me was, do I really believe that? And I do. I do, because I've seen what evil looks like. I've seen evil through my stepmom, even through my own mom. I've seen what it's like, and it's a lot of energy to be angry and to be mad. And you age yourself, okay? I'm 44 with no wrinkles, okay? Play with your mammy. I do believe that. I try to live life to the fullest. The one cliche that I used to hear all the time is life is short, but it really is. It really, really is. And the pandemic probably helped out with a lot of people, because there were so many people who died unnecessarily to this pandemic, right? So I do feel life is short, and that you can wither away and be sad and depressed and angry. And I can only talk about my journey and my walk, right? I'm never going to talk about someone else's, because I don't know what their journey or walk looks like and feels like. And a lot of times people aren't very transparent about what their life looks like. So when I speak about my life and what I've experienced, and that I truly feel that. I do feel like there is a brighter side to things, even through storms. When the pandemic hit, I literally sold my house and was like, I'm moving to Hawaii, because that's something I've always wanted to do. And I've always put other people first, other employers first, help them get rich and get millions of dollars. And I don't put my vision and my dreams and my aspirations first. And that's what I did. And I learned that by coming here, and I've experienced it, and I'm over it. And so me being a life coach, I've always been a life coach, even in college. I've helped people out of abusive relationships and didn't realize I was coaching them. My coaching style is to listen and not always have the answer. And if I do have an answer, it's going to be a fun solution together. We do together, right? It's not judgmental. It's not a therapy or clinical approach. It's a real life. We're going to get to know each other, and you're going to tell me, and I'm going to take notes. And then when you're ready for me, I'm going to tell you what we're going to do to get you where you need to be. And I have an example of a client that I actually sought her out on that. I don't know if you know that app Clubhouse. Mm-hmm. But I was in a room in Clubhouse, and I can hear her crying, and she was talking about her marriage, and I just felt her pain. And so I messaged her privately, and I actually offered her a free session. And one of our activities together was we built a hotel together. Mm-hmm. And she took out, just like he had me do my exercise with a piece of paper, I had her get a journal. And she drew her hotel, and we were in the basement for a minute. So the hotel didn't even have a lobby yet. We were just in the basement. And so at one point, right, I asked her, do you think that you're a queen? Do you feel like you're a queen? And she's like, yes, I am. I said, do queens reside in a basement? And she just thought about it, and she's like, no, they don't. I said, let me tell you what a basement is to me, and then you tell me what it is. So when I think of a basement, I think of dark, storage, all kind of bugs and critters, probably entities down there. It's just no light. Sometimes it's okay to go down there and throw your baggage down there, your storage, your trash. Sometimes it's okay to go down there and figure out what you want to do next. But we don't sit Indian style down there. We don't sit in the basement ever as a queen. And so eventually, she put a padlock on that basement. And every once in a while, before that padlock, she would go in there, but she didn't sit Indian style. And eventually, we got to like 33 floors. And each floor is where she wanted to be mentally that day. Are you at the massage? Are you getting a massage? Like, are you in Bali? Like all the places she wanted to go, right? Because it's manifesting, but she didn't know that's what she was doing. I was just trying to get her out of the mental space of thinking about why her marriage didn't work and put her in a space of where she'd rather be. And so she created a floor, like a spa floor, a legal floor, an art floor. And so all these different floors. And so when she would check in with me, I'll say, what floor are we on today? So I know where to meet you. And then I'll meet her on that floor and we'll talk about whatever she wanted to talk about. And, you know, eventually she moved out of her hotel and she's living life normally, but it took her a while to change her mind space and headspace of where she was at. And she blamed herself, but it's not something you could blame. If somebody chooses to leave a marriage and not communicate with you why, and they just pack up and leave, yeah, there's a lot to unpack, right? But then once we unpack it, where do we leave it? Leave it in the basement and go on to whatever floor you feel like you want to be on and pamper yourself. You're a queen. And so those are kind of techniques and exercises I do customized to each person. So if you're interested, I don't know if I could put in the chat but my IG page is Angelija. So it's my name and my son's name together. It's ANGALIJAH. And that's how you can find me on Instagram. Probably the easiest way to find me. And if you want to email me, it's my name spelled out here, angelika.a.taylor@gmail.com.
Perfect. Well, I want to thank you so much for sharing your time with me. And I just want to make this note. And the first thing I want to say is I appreciate how you were able to go through this entire interview and smile. As you were talking, your smile never leaves. And I think being able to meet someone who's able to do that, I understand the appreciation of like people being positive. Like we need this as much as we need people who are supposed to keep it real or like, you know, dark. Like, okay, we also need these people who are positive. So thank you for that. I really, really appreciate what you said about eyelashes earlier. I know this is really random.
Yeah.
I appreciate what you said about eyelashes earlier because you said that you were expressing yourself and it was also something that you weren't able to do. So, you know, you put them on and you put the lipstick on. And I hope that this is not taken the wrong way, but for some reason, I just feel like I need to say this.
Okay.
I used to be like, why are people eyelashes like so long? You know, like, why is this so exaggerative? And I meet the smartest people with eyelashes, the greatest people with eyelashes. I'm like, well, what's the problem? Like, what is my thing against eyelashes being so like crazy? Yeah. And it's just like, as I'm talking to you, the eyelashes aren't bothering me. It's just adding like this is like a butterfly. It's like a flutter. And I think that has a lot to do with who you are. Mm-hmm. And what I'm trying to be is not, you know, judgmental or things like that. But I'm recognizing this and I'm being raw about the fact that like I've judged people with eyelashes being so long. My judgment was in my question, man, why are they so long? That was my judgment. I would have never thought a story like that would have came out of eyelashes.
Yeah. Like, Can I say something to that?
Yeah.
I've been used to being judged so long, and whether I have no eyelashes and lipstick, right? Sometimes my lipstick is red, sometimes it's a pink. I'm going to be judged for my lipstick. I'm going to be judged for the curls that I have. I'm going to be judged for the type of sandals I wear. So if I'm going to be judged, girl, judge me. Judge my 25 millimeter lashes. Judge it all, because you can't care about what other people think. And it's so funny you brought that up, because my goal right now, I really want to move to Seattle. Like Seattle's drawing me. And so I'm trying to go there. And what I want to do and what I've had before is a group of women that empower each other. I want to start that back up again. It's going to be called Ladies of Quality. And that was the number one topic, is that we're so quick to judge one another. And that's why there's no unity amongst us, because we never take the mirror and look at ourselves and wonder, why do we have a problem with this other person? What is it about me? Right? Where's the self-reflection that I need to take in with myself that's bothering me so much about this individual? Yeah. And I've been there before. And it's because of how we were raised, what we're used to seeing, the unity just not being there. And I want to I want to take that away, because can you imagine the strength in numbers where you have a group of women and some of them are attorneys, some of them are really good at coding, some of them are really good at public speaking, and you put that together and like what you can create with that. And so I want to do that, and it's going to be called Ladies of Quality. And judgment is going to be part of it, and it's going to be a conversation we're going to have. And why do we do that? And we're going to uncover that, you know?
I do understand that we're supposed to have struggle, and I guess that's a narrative that I was trying to pull away from, and I understand the importance of it in order to have such a beautiful story. But what I want to just emphasize is that you are smiling, you're able to tell this story, you had a good outcome, and you use those cliches that are for the good.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, that's the end for today. If there's anything else you want to say before we close out, that's all that I have.
I just want to thank you for, a lot of me smiling is being thankful to share my story, and talk about what I've been through, because I don't always do that. I don't think I always have a safe place or space to do that. And so I want to thank you for reaching out and listening to the universe and connecting. This isn't going to be our last time talking, so I'm excited about that. And that's all I have.